Welcome back to In Conversation, day 4 of Budget Debates 2026. And we just watched at a beautifully executed presentation by none other than Dr. Dexter Todd, Member of Parliament. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Excellent presentation. And I'm watching and I have my own things here. I know you didn't get to say everything that you want to say.
Yes.
So those things that you want to add here, you have the platform here to deal with it. But you started out to talk about the budget and why it should have consultation when you're doing this, because the budget is about the people.
Yes.
And you thought to push on that, the issue of consultation. Let's talk about that.
You see, consultation is very important. I made the point that a political party's manifesto is not a national development plan. And so a national development plan takes on board or takes into consideration the involvement of a number of parties. And what I believe comes out of that, importantly, is the fact that you get to really prioritize what should be done. And I think it lacks the consultation, and I think the challenge we have, or the different views that we have between government and opposition, is that while we are saying, yes, the things about building infrastructure, etc., those things are important, we would want to more advocate that it is the priorities are not in order. There are too many sufferings with our people, and we believe that building of buildings, installing various, whether they want to talk about umpteen $1 million investment, etc. You have to look to see how the people are really going to benefit. I took this argument more from the perspective of legislation, and I'm saying that there is no legislative agenda that has been outlined in this budget. This budget gives the Ministry of Legal Affairs close to $2 billion. And when you look at what it and how it will be spent, we are left to wonder what are the priority legislations that are in place. And that is why I advocated in this debate that some of the things that we need to go back to is the issue of our electoral laws, the issue of and this comes directly from the EU's observations about our elections, in terms of it not being a level playing field for all parties. So while you come into Parliament and you jump and you make noise that we, the people, overwhelmingly voted for us and that we have the victory, we have to ask ourselves the question, is it really a reflection of the masses of the will of the people? And you would know that a significant portion of the people did not even go out and vote. So you still need to capture those. But then what about those who exercise their franchise to vote for other parties? They're not the ones who supported your manifesto. So if you can't just bring your manifesto and push it down the throats of the people to see that is the priority. And that is why we said consultation is very important.
You, of course, started to talk here too about the elections, and we always hear, this is not the first budget debate. The PPP side come to talk about who rigged an election, who did this, who that. There is always that ranting in their speech. But you outline some key issues that if they want to talk about election, these are the things, and you outline the key findings in the European Union report for the 2025 election, and you talked about financing and the politicized structure of GCOM. And I think that it was awesome that you pointed those things out. Let's talk about that a little.
You see, the government clearly has thrown the EU's report through the door. And they have not, because of the fact that it doesn't speak the language that they like. I believe they're very much uncomfortable with it. But it reflects the naked truth of what is happening in our society. We have an electoral system that we must fix. When we look at the disadvantage that faces other political parties moving to the elections, in terms of there's no control in terms of electoral spending. We have outdated laws in relation to that. So which means that a party can spend way above astronomical amounts of monies to buy votes. But those things go against the true practice of elections and the promulgation of democracy around the world. And so Guyana is no different. Guyana can't keep itself away. But these are important things to fix. When we look at the EU's report in relation to the use of media, we recognize that the government exercised a heavy hand in relation to media houses. And so they were not. So when you talk about whether all the parties had an equal playing field to send their messages out to the people, they did not have that. So I believe those are things that are priority for us to fix, because we need to make sure that when a government is elected, it's really the will of the masses. Because at the end of the day, all the individuals, all citizens, all voters had a good opportunity to look and to reflect on all the manifestos and the policies coming forth from the political parties, and then they will make their choice. But then you have in Guyana, a lot of the persons were never even given an opportunity to see what APNO is saying. So as we go through the debate, and when we mention what we were offering in our manifesto, they are now hearing that for the first time. Just imagine that. And so now they're saying, oh, we were really robbed because the information didn't get out there. All right. And so all of this, I think, in a very analytical way, the EU observers were able to pull those things together and really define what is really happening in our electoral system here in Guyana.
Yes, and you as well spoke to the EU talking about the freedom of expression, especially for the civil servants. And they talked about the part-time workers and the pressures they face. They couldn't even participate in campaign activities and those kind of things. And that was something that was noted in their report. And I think you did mention this in your speech here today. So there was a lot happening, and you then went to what I believe it will be my favorite part of your speech, because it's something that I feel so strongly about, and it is also something that still puzzle me, that in the year 2025 we saw a level of injustice that happened among our children. They were victims of all sorts of things. And it bothers my mind to understand that we face that as a nation, and we still have the PPC government in power. But you brought out the issue. I know that you had other things you wanted to talk, but you dealt with the issue of Adriana Young. And I think that was powerful, the way you brought it over, because as you said, people are bringing frivolous things to talk about when we have an issue this serious. So let's talk about that.
Listen, there were so many things that I really wanted to say. The time was not enough. I wish I had the same time like government, 35. Because I wanted to touch on other persons who have died, and we were not even able to investigate their matters properly, and that there is no justice. The question is, you come to the people and you're saying, I want all this more money, but you're not saying, how is it that I'm improving the system? It would be if the government comes and says to us, listen, we are going to be training for the next 7 months or to a year. We are going to be training 20 persons, forensic experts in all different fields and so on, which will be able to, we are going to be trying to ensure that we have the most modernized equipment to be used for investigation and so on, so that people can have justice. you have a government that completely, after an internationally recognized matter like the Adriana Young's matter, and they just go on as though
Nothing
it's
ever
an
happened,
yes,
like nothing ever happened.
and there are still people who are crying for justice, and there are still children who are, and parents who believe that, listen to me, I'm very scared, and I will break this down. I mean, I didn't get to go into these other
Yes.
parts of the presentation, but
Go
when
ahead.
you look at the government was not even responsible to come to us and to say, okay, the lessons learned out of the Adriana's Young matter, we are going to ensure that there is enforceable regulations which will allow that no pool will be able to operate without a lifeguard. If the pool operates without a lifeguard and it's open to the public, especially when we're dealing with children. All right, it will become a criminal act to do that. I mean, there have to be something. In Guyana, our laws only speak to giving power, that regulatory power, to the EPA. And I mean, look at it. The EPA will only look at environment, look at the water texture, making sure that the children. But it is not. They're looking at safety from that end in terms of the water and the pool and the surrounding. But we're looking at safety from another end. We're looking at safety much more broader. And so they have not even made a statement to say effective from this. We have to ensure that this does not happen again with our children. All right. So when you look at how helter-skelter they ran in the investigation of this matter, I was making a lot of points that we needed a digital forensic expert to come in, because this entire alleged crime scene was destroyed by fire. And you would have needed someone with the expert knowledge and training in relation to fitting back, trying to sketch back and map out the entire area back again, so that you can ensure that you would have covered all pieces, all photographs and all of that would have been brought together. They did nothing. Look at what is going to happen. As I mentioned, we have a Coroner's Act, but our Coroner's Act that we borrowed from the United Kingdom since in the 1800s clearly is not adequate. The United Kingdom has moved on, and they even now come to even 2014, where they have regulations. But even when you look at their regulations now, they have included forensic experts in that. But our coroner is just plain simple. A magistrate sits as one who investigates, and then we have 3 jurors, and that 3 jurors can be drawn from any part of society, does not have to have any particular skills. We can't do that because the types of matters that we're seeing coming forth now are matters that require specialist attention. And look at what happened yesterday with the 4 guys, young men that died tragically, with some form of inhaling some poisonous gas and so on. The minute how you look at how they were even handling those bodies within such a situation where they have no knowledge and they were not even guided as to what type of gas and whether that through the pores or anything can affect other people.
Nothing.
So they are spending lots of monies, billions upon billions of dollars, but they are not spending to ensure the safety of our people. And safety goes, as I said, very wide, because even when a tragedy occurs, we have the protocol, we have the experts who will be able to do a proper investigation so that justice will be had in this country.
You further went on to talk about the judiciary and the need for it to operate in a way that there is no political interference. People shouldn't have to worry about whether this judgment was influenced or not. Let's talk about that.
You see, we talk about separations of powers, but I think it's a lip service for this government. If you have to, if the judiciary as a separate arm of government have to always be depending on the executive, mind you, we have the constitutional architecture for the courts, for the judiciary to operate so independently, to be their own autonomy, to spend their own money, but they don't want that. They don't want that. They want to always have this type of interaction with the judiciary. All right. And that is why I said to take their feet off the neck of the judiciary. Allow, and when you look at it, it's not only the issue of the spending and having to control how they spend. You have to control when they get to court and when they do this and when they do that. No, just look, as I mentioned, in terms of the unwarranted comments in relation to judges. You have how the executive operate. You're building more courts, but then you have to ask yourself: the people who sit on those bench, are they feeling free enough to make a decision based on law? Because they all in Guyana, the atmosphere is already set in that when you don't make a judgment that goes in favor of this government, they come after you. The type of comments that you have, the type of backlash, and we have been seeing it a lot with I think we had two judges, Justice Gino, we had it Justice Isoon, in terms unwarranted attack. And so those things have to also stop. Because we want, listen, the judiciary acts really as the guardrail of our democracy.
Yes, it does.
If the judiciary is not given that autonomy and that opportunity to really do their work in such an effective and efficient way, we say in plain colloquial language, cat it within. Cat it within in this country. Because when you see people come after you with all sorts of frivolous claims and so on, you depend that you will have your one day in court, and your day in court, justice will be served. So we have to fight for the judiciary. We have to, and this budget doesn't fight for them. All right, it doesn't fight for them. It gives them. It just building. But what happened to the issue of service? I mean, I didn't even get to the issue of compensation in relation to that. I believe what a magistrate is earning is totally inadequate. And that, listen, you want the type of payments and allowance to certain key positions so high and comfortable that they will think twice
before they do something
to mess that up. You understand me? And those are key offices, key chairs that they hold, because they hold, as I said, they are the guardrails really of democracy in our country. And they must be able, where the rule of law, the authority who is responsible for the rule of law in this country, who are the guardian of the Constitution, that court, that judiciary, and therefore we have to be able to fight for them. And this budget doesn't fight for them. This budget fights for spending of buildings, but doesn't fight to ensure that the service and the law which comes out of those courts are one which are maintained.
I know that the statement that I'm about to talk about, it wasn't a part of your budget speech. We have been witnessing these debates, and we hear what's happening in the House, people talking, etc. But I have to commend how you dealt with the issue of James Bond. And the fact that people ought to understand everybody has a choice. But you can't come and beat me because I decided to stay and you went for economic benefits. It wasn't nothing about morals and loyalty.
Exactly.
Speak to that.
I mean, listen, James Bond is my respected colleague, but I believe sometimes we have to draw the line. I have seen James Bond from time to time. And as I rightly said, I didn't lie. I visited James Bond's establishment on more than one occasions, where there were events there just to support him. And it was all cut short, because it's either the police after him. And so he has had a series of really uncomfortable treatment by the authorities. And I personally feel as though he felt like enough is enough. I am not strong enough to fight these people anymore. And so the first opening door that he had to run, he ran. Now, I am not saying anything is wrong with that, but if you believe that you are going to benefit economically from the other side, don't bash us on this side to make it look as though we do not have a history of fighting for a particular cause, because that is what you left. You left a party that has always been fighting for the rights of our people.
Correct.
You left a party that has always been fighting for fairness and justice.
Correct.
And James Bond has been in that fight. James Bond has pellets in his back, marks of pellets in his back, to show and to demonstrate that he was fighting for the cause. He left us on this side fighting, continuing to fight for the cause, but not because you've gone over there for economic benefits. You look on us with some form of disdain. It's not fair and it's not right. And I had to call him out in such a public forum on it, because the wrong message is being sent out there. Nothing is wrong, as you rightly said. Nothing is wrong with a person's free choice. But if you're going to make a free choice, at times when it comes to points of fairness and justice that the APNU has always been fighting for, you need to stand up and say, no, that's not so. I was in that fight and it was a real cause. You understand me? But he's coming after us as though it has been the worst party on planet Earth, and there's no history of fighting for anything, which I believe is very deceiving to our people and sad.
Sad
So I had to call him out on that.
How would you sum up this 2026 budget presented?
Okay. I believe that there are some good initiatives in the budget. I believe that there are some initiatives in which our people are really going to benefit. Like, for example, the honorable member, health minister, spoke about supplies of hearing aid and so on for our people and so on. I mean, we will never come to fight those things. Those things are good for our people. Talk about training, talk about young entrepreneurs who have an opportunity to go and get a no interest loan from the provisions that they are going to provide. Those are good. Okay, those are things that we will support. But what we're saying, our fight really in this debate, and I want it to be very clear to our people, it was an issue of priorities, because we believe that there are some things that should be on the agenda as equally important as infrastructure. And it's like, for example, we fought generally a lot for more monies to be going to the University of Guyana as opposed to gold. The University of Guyana comes in about 14 point something billion dollars. Gold comes in about 20 point something billion dollars. So a lot of our monies are going to foreign universities. But why not pump more monies into our university to be able to have more? And if you remember what the PPP's founding father, one of the founding fathers, had said, Dr. Chedi Jagan, he thought his words in relation to the university is that the university must be transformed into an institution which is able to cater for the needs of our society here.
Right.
But how are we going to do that? They have completely moved away from that. All right. And the university is just everything they ask for, they're not getting. And we how are we going to be proud of our a lot of the courses being offered overseas can be offered right here at our university. All right. And so I think really when you look at it in terms of their spending, the priorities, there are some priorities I believe are mixed up. And those priorities which are mixed up, we are out there with saying, listen, this doesn't really put the people first. All right. And so in a nutshell, they cannot get our support from the budget because they came with this attitude not to listen. And we were making points, all our speakers were making points to say, listen, include this, use this, look at your spending here, look at that. But they were totally not prepared to listen to us. They believe they came to the house, they have the majority of in their seats. So this was all a charade for them. All right. So this entire budget debate went, I think, 60% into a political campaign gaffe. My speech that I had in relation to numbers in this budget had to push outside, because as you go home and as you read follow the social media, and as you follow, this entire thing is just them trying to beat us down, to talk about your 12 seats, your 12 this, you understand me? And we have an overwhelming majority, and and about elections and who rig elections, and you understand. So they shifted the debate with a lot of misinformation. That is why I talked about Walter Rodney.
Yes.
They jumped in last night to talk about Walter Rodney and the PNC. The PNC is an institution. Do they have any proof that the PNC's executive sat at a meeting and make a decision, a party decision, to do anything? And that is what I'm saying. There's no statutory limitation time on indictable matters. If you have the evidence that someone executed bring it to the front and allow the courts to deal with it. But you continue to go on for years upon years of peddling this. And I said, we never said the PPP killed Sadiq.
Right.
We said that we called for an independent investigation in relation to Sadiq. So at the end of the day, the culprit, if they are culprits, will be brought to justice. And that is what we do. We have always been fair and balanced in the comments and what we say.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Todd. As I said, the presentation was excellently done. And, to our viewing audience, we look forward. Our next speaker will be Dr. Terence Campbell. So you can stay tuned. Shortly, he will be on the floor. And of course, we'll speak to him after, as our presentations wrap up this evening.